In the fall of 2007, the Canadian dollar hit parity with the U.S. dollar, and it took that parity moment for many Canadians to realize that cars in the United States were a whole lot cheaper than they were in Canada, and they went shopping down south in a big way. One of the main reasons was that the Canadian car manufacturers couldn't adjust their prices quickly enough to keep people interested in buying in Canada. Back then, getting a vehicle across the border was a lot harder than it is today. Due to the unique regulation differences between the two countries, things like immobilizer standards and bumper regulations were different, and this was a perfect way for auto manufacturers to block Canadians from buying in the U.S. The good news is that the Canadian and American governments are working together to either accept the other's regulations or, in the case of bumper laws, actually harmonize the two to make sure that it's easier to get cars back and forth across the border. The regulatory body that oversees the importation of vehicles into Canada, RIV, the Registrar of Imported Vehicles, has just updated their website, which is riv.ca, which clearly spells out what needs to be done and which additional modifications have to be completed in order to bring a vehicle into Canada. It's a vital resource and should be studied thoroughly before you decide to shop. In order to get a good deal, you have to find out if it's a good deal to start with. That means doing some research on the internet. But it's not that easy because cars that are sold in the United States are sometimes very different from cars sold in Canada. So you have to drill down into the specifics of each individual trim level to get an apples-to-apples comparison. It isn't that easy. Not only that, Canadian automakers have been adjusting their prices over the last several years, reflecting the stronger Canadian dollar, and in many instances have offered more content in addition to charging less money. There are some things to consider. You cannot take advantage of low factory financing in the United States. You have to pay for the vehicle outright, in many instances using a Canadian line of credit. Second, many manufacturers do not honor the U.S. warranty in Canada, so beware. And don't think that you can just go to the U.S. and buy a brand new car. Nope, most U.S. dealers will not sell to Canadians, so the only option is to buy a used vehicle. One thing you still need is a recall letter from the manufacturer before you bring a car across the border. And some manufacturers are charging big money to print this letter off and send it to you. So here's a tip. Make sure you get the recall letter as part of the deal before you get your used vehicle. It is a lot easier now than it was a few years ago to bring a car across the border, but you still have to do your due diligence. You have to do a lot of homework online. One of the best places is to start at riv.ca, or you can go back to our website and look at stories we've done on bringing a car in from the United States from about 2 years ago. Do your homework and make sure you're not stung at the border. And for many people in Canada, because the Canadian manufacturers have adjusted their pricing, they're just finding it better to spend their money at home.